On my way to the Deal Champs boot camp.
Oh,
Oh,
what time does it start?
9 o'clock.
Oh, okay, so you're almost there.
Yep.
Where's it being held at?
Somewhere in Fresno, Van Nuys.
Oh, I don't know. Probably
where
some cool
that's
venue. Oh, your life's about to change.
With all the groups I'm in right now, it's already changed.
Yeah, good.
It's just more definition.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Anna, Renee, good morning.
Morning, Vincent.
Anna says she's at work, so she's gonna be listening. So last week we were at the Old Champs with Vincent, the event by Jason Pritchard, Jen, Braxton, and Dean Rogers, right?
Yeah, Stratton, Indian. Yeah,
Stratton, yeah.
yeah. We had Jim there. Ravi was there. Myself.
Was any
Jimenez, good morning.
Good morning.
That's a cool background, what you have. Auckland roots.
Yeah. Since
you-
there's no more actual professional teams.
Yeah.
Minor league teams now.
Oh, we got somebody else somebody Bay Area up here. Nice. Are you in Oakland?
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Well, Lindsay, you want to start off?
Yeah, so last week we had a lot of fun. We learned a lot about marketing and direct to seller techniques, and then people that are coming into the California market for sure, investing heavily in Central Valley. But this week, what are we gonna do here? Well, I don't have many updates, but I did receive one of my tenants moved out of their place without putting a 30-day notice. So their lease was up, so there was no like break of lease whatsoever. We are
Nice.
gonna keep her deposit, but now I'm gonna have to turn another unit.
Yeah. Well,
How long
weather's
was she
nice
there?
up.
She was there for a year.
That's terrible.
She was a very good tenant. Like we didn't hear anything from her for a whole year, paid on time. She was a Section 8.
Why did she leave?
Not sure. She just like said, "Oh, we're gonna start looking for another place." And my property manager's like, "Oh, make sure you give the 30-day." And then her lease was up April 1st, so she just left like April 1st.
Wait, so she was a good tenant and she told you she was getting ready to look for places and you guys weren't proactive trying to keep her?
So I have a property manager, and she kind of mentioned like the last week of March when we send her a lease renewal that she may want to look for a new place. So we sent her a lease renewal at the same rent that she was having. We didn't increase or anything because she
Yeah,
has
but
that. Mm-hmm.
somebody should have had a conversation. Considering, I don't know what your market is doing, but if rents are softening and you have a solid tenant, just sending a lease renewal and then they're telling you that they're looking to find another place and leaving it there, somebody did you a disservice. They should have had a conversation with her and said, "Hey, what's going on? Why do you need another unit?" And if she would have said, "Well, there's three that are similar size and I can pay $100 less," you got to decide whether losing at least 1 month's worth of rent and having a possibly bad tenant come in is worth that $100 when the market is softening. That's conversation that you have to be proactive in this. When rents are going up and there's a million people out there and you didn't have a good tenant, it might be worth flipping it. But if you lose tenants on an annual basis, that's going to cost you money you don't need to lose. You know what I'm saying? You're already going to be if you lose 1 month, what's that do to your vacancy rate?
Yeah.
So
I totally get where you're coming from, but I think is the lease renewal was just sent, and then she said she might find another place, and there was like not really follow up, even though my property manager was trying to get a hold of her, and so she did not break lease. 'Cause
Right,
she-
right. No, I get that. I totally understand that. But my point is, if she was looking for somewhere else and you said she was a good tenant, you guys were good with it. God, I can't remember who it is. One of the main guys that's always on Zuber's channel. And I learned this, I didn't clarify it like he did, but I've learned it from from doing it over and over. It's worth having a conversation with the tenants, and not just sending the lease renewal. Just have a conversation and say, hey, what are you thinking about? Are you considering, even way before the 30 days are up, maybe, you know, a couple of months in, say, hey, lease is coming up. You know, how do you feel about? And then the other thing that happened with that will do for you is if they're telling you, no matter what you tell them, that they're going to be still shopping around, that allows you to get ahead of the vacancy, right? You can start posting and saying this unit's going to be available in 60 days, and you might be able to shrink the amount of time you have a vacancy. But just doing what you're supposed to do, which is give her the lease renewal. She doesn't renew it, she leaves, doesn't put you in a proactive position. That's just my opinion. In a proactive position, you could be a little bit more proactive and get ahead. Whether she left or not, you still would be ahead if she ghosted you guys and you already had it, you know, posted on, you know, and you were already accepting applications and you were approving people and so on and so forth. Where the gap now, you know, now you're starting at zero, right? She just left, so you've got to market it. You've got to go in there and see if you can clean it. Hopefully you'll rent it out within the first month, so on and so forth. So anyway, just my opinion.
Yeah.
Mr. Jimenez, you mind, I don't think we met before. You mind introducing yourself a little bit? Tell us a little about where you're invested or where you're from. I know you got Oakland up there, but.
Oh, my name is Jorge. I've been a realtor for 25 years. I've been an investor for, I don't know, 20 years. All my stuff is in the East Bay, in the Bay Area.
Nice.
I bought most of it when it was super, super cheap. So it didn't take a genius to make money back then.
Mm-hmm.
But ever since then, I'm a realtor. I've done more and more small multifamilies. I've kind of coached one-on-ones. I've never considered doing any kind of YouTube or anything like that, but I help people. I just coach them up, and I've converted under 10 tenants into multi-unit owners.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Awesome. Pleasure to have you on the call.
no
How long
worries.
have you been in Zuber's community?
I don't know. In school, whenever it came out, but you know, I'm bad, man, because I'm already kind of on the other side. I'm nowhere near as big as Zuber and the other guys, but I'm cool. I'm good with where I'm at. So I really cherry pick my new investments. You know what I mean? They have to be like super duper awesome projects for me to bother with them. So I don't come in all, you know, every day. Like someone should. If you're starting up, you should be in this thing every day, man. It's just, you know, used to be Bigger Pockets was kind of like this when it started. And then, of course, like everything else, they just decided to capitalize and sensationalize and get every single dollar from every single person, get a bunch of guys for a year, charge them whatever they're going to charge for classes. And then they found out that this wasn't for them. So that's kind of like one of the main reasons why I stick around with Zuber is him and most of his guys are not just trying to upsell everybody on the dream and not care whether or not they actually become successful.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining. Well, Lindsay, yeah, that's good. I mean, at least the weather's nicer out there, right? So it should be a little easier to find somebody rather than December.
Yeah, and that tenant was being rented at 1100 and the Section 8, and Section 8 has gone up for the area, for that area. So it's going to be at least 1250 now.
So the Section 8 there, is it the same on the housing authority? Do you have to give them like a 60-day window when you're going to raise rents? Give them a 60-day notification before raising any rents?
I wasn't going to raise rents for this particular tenant.
No, I'm saying when they are in though, if you were to keep them in till 2027, if you wanted to raise into 2020 or beginning of 2026, would you have to give them a 60-day window to raise those rents?
It depends on where their voucher comes from. So there's 4 cities where their vouchers come from. Some of them are 60 days, some of them are 30.
Oh, okay. The property manager handles that though.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. That's good.
Hey, Lindsay, do you also have to input that in your RFTA? I know that like usually when you submit the RFTA, they review that too.
I don't know.
Well, I don't understand your question. What
For Section 8, Troy?
Yeah, it's for Section 8, you have to usually, well, okay, in Missouri, you have to apply a form. It's called an RFTA.
Yeah.
When you actually it's a request for tenancy for anybody that's a voucher approved and or has some form of assistance. So it could be disability or whatever. There's a form that you got to fill out. It's basically it shows that it's explaining who you are, who your tenant is, that you're trying to accept as a new tenant, and then within that form there you put in your rent price and so forth, and they basically process it and approve it.
No, I'm not sure if we have one.
We do something like that in the Bay Area. I don't remember what the name of the form is, but we do submit it prior to getting it approved. So maybe I don't know if it's California across the board.
Basically, that spurs everything in action. So they'll schedule housing authority representative that's going to come out to the property and do a tour of the property, make sure it qualifies. And so if I understand though, like if you've already gotten pre-qualified, they still send someone out there, but it's a quick inspection usually afterwards to make sure everything's in good condition.
Ours is a little bit different in Alabama, the process.
Interesting. So how's Alabama and Tennessee doing right now? What are you guys, is the market for sales softening at all, or is rentals softening, or?
So I'm specifically just in Alabama for my out of states. I think so. Alabama's, as everybody knows, it's very, very slow depreciation, great rental income, cash flow. But I've seen a lot of lately areas that I'm targeting kind of going downhill. So we're kind of pivoting and shifting a little bit to some of the satellite suburbs of the area. So there's cities right outside that I'm starting to now target from the major like metropolitan area. So I go direct to seller. I don't do any on market listings or anything. I'm straight direct to seller. So it's kind of a little bit of a different ball game for me, as I say.
What kind of properties do you look for? Single families or multi-units? What do you look for?
We're targeting both. I don't have any multi right now, but all my portfolio is single family, but we do target both.
Okay.
Yeah. So I do have an update because I know everybody was asking about the Jennifer Stewart cold caller. It's been 2 weeks for me now. And I had it ready for you guys, but I have gotten, sorry. So with the Jennifer Stewart program, she gives you a pre-trained, ready to go cold caller that kind of fits your niche, your market, kind of what works for you. You can sit with the interview and listen to their calls. She already has pre-recorded calls or information about them. She'll kind of give you a little biography on them a little bit, their background, why they're doing this, where they come from. After you pick and approve of the accent or lack of accent or whatever criteria you have for yours, you then set up a CRM, give them access to the CRM, and you have to set up a dialer. So batch dialer is the dialing system so they can do the multi-line dialing at one time. So they're shooting out, I don't know if it's 8 or 10 calls at one time. Whoever picks up, the 7 or the 9 drop off, and that one person will be, patched through to the cold caller. So in 2 weeks, I have gotten 10 leads. 8 open leads, but 10 leads. So 2 of them were warm, ready to go, hop on right now. The other 8 were long-term follow-ups. So it depends on how aggressive you are, as I kind of tell people on this, on the long-term follow-ups. If you can build rapport and start the relationship now on those long-term follow-ups, and at least just learn more about their situation and why they even gave the information to this cold caller, that long-term follow-up will now turn into a warm lead. You've built rapport, you've made a connection, you're understanding their why. And I don't want to say, like, sometimes you flash a little bit of cash in their face, they may, you know, jump into that warm lead spot, right? So what I do with those, and the VA, this is something him and I want to talk about, is I don't want him to, when he's calling, to like put those on the back burner. Like, think of those as long-term leads. Still be aggressive with them. Still get all the information you can from them, but don't just, oh, okay, we'll call you in a month or so. No, let's still, okay, my manager, somebody on my team, whatever, is going to call you tomorrow. We're going to just bridge that connection, build that connection, because I feel like I have a good ability to, you know, build that rapport with the seller. So I could I have a good confidence level of being able to possibly turn that into a warm lead. So so far in 2 weeks, I'm happy. It's been 10 leads, and I've been following up with a couple. I have a contract. My contract is walking one on Monday, or sorry, 2 of them. So I target a lot of portfolios specific. So I want people that are almost free and clear in equity and own 5 or more properties. Our market is so cheap in that area, so there's plenty of people that own 5 or more properties, and I want them 50 or older. So that's who I'm targeting. That's what I'm following up on. So this gentleman is open to selling 2. So my contract is going to walk those on Monday with him. And he's just like 77 and just wants to get out the game. So he's just retiring. So there's a lot of opportunities for self-finance. There's a lot of opportunities for a quick cash offer. So we'll narrow that. Once he gets pictures inside, we'll be able to narrow that down a little bit more. But so far, for the update on the cold caller with her, I'm pretty happy so far. And he handles my CRM. There's some things I have to do, obviously, move some things around and manage the CRM, but he handles all that. And you get a WhatsApp chat with the skip tracing department, and you get a WhatsApp chat with the actual cold caller himself. So every week we'll pull a brand new list of about 2,000 to 3,000 names on the list, and then he goes to work for that week, and then inputs everything into the CRM. So far so good. I haven't closed yet on anything, but I'll be working on it actually today after this call. I've got a lot to work on.
Hey,
What do
Vincent,
you? Go ahead.
Why are you targeting 50 years and younger, 50 years and older?
50 years or older.
Okay.
A little bit more distress there. They've been probably doing it for a little while. They're more than likely going to be close to paid off, if not paid off. Maybe retiring, possibly. There's a lot more reasons than somebody who's 31 and owns 5.
And there's a lot less pressure on you.
Yes.
You're talking about their age. I thought you might have been the property. 50 years
Oh,
old.
no. Sorry. Yeah, the owner age. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you end up with a lot less pressure, man. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? 'Cause they're not going to start. A 30-year-old is going to say, well, he's interested. Somebody else might be more interested.
Mhm.
You know, us older people, we're like, man, if you put something together that sounds good, we'll take it. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So, yeah.
he's not. Yeah, the 78-year-old guy or whatever he is, I'm dealing with now. He's not shopping my offer around. He's not calling anybody. He just wants these gone. And you know, probably, you know, I've built enough rapport. We talked about I think I talked about last week. Talked about spearfishing and all this random stuff that I know nothing about, but you know, building that rapport and turning it into a warm lead.
Yeah. I did exactly that with a guy I didn't even know he had, because I wasn't actively talking to him, but I knew his son. This is 15 years ago. I knew his son. So he said, hey, my dad's having a problem with a tenant. Can you help him? I said, yeah. I went over there and I talked to him. And I just started looking through his property, and it was in bad. I'm like, dude, you're going to run into all these problems pretty soon. I said, your water heaters are about to explode. I said, you have all these issues. And he goes, well, give me a price. And I literally was like, you know, I don't know. I'll give you 700 for both. Right. And he's like, cool. I said, but are you willing to finance? And he's like, yeah. He goes, give me 100 and then we'll finance the rest. Each one of those buildings right now is worth like 1.6.
Nice.
And it was a fluke, man. That one I wasn't.
Yeah.
But so, and after that, I was like, man, I'm an idiot. How am I not course, there wasn't all the YouTubes and
Yeah.
the groups that you could mastermind with back then. But I was like, why have I not been targeting older people? They don't care. They're good.
Yeah.
Another lady who had this property that we wanted. It was a shop, and we wanted it. We were like, you can get the appraiser. We'll pay you whatever the appraiser says. We'll pay all the fees. And she opened the door and said, "Honey, what am I gonna do with $1 million?" She said, "I'm almost dead." She literally said that. She said, "I'm almost dead. What do I care about having another $1 million?" She goes, "The problem that I'm going to have to do talking to my lawyer and the taxes is not worth the $1 million." And she told me, she goes, "But I tell you what, I will put in right now that when I pass, that my kids can call you first." And she did. They did. And we ended up, I didn't want it, but one of my investors did. And so it's older people are very chill. And they're very direct. They'll tell you right off the bat whether or not they've got time, you know what I mean, or not. They're like, "I'm not interested. See you later."
So I
Vincent,
think, go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to ask you if you kind of have the VAs pose as a partner of yours, or how do they do the verbiage, I guess, when they make those calls?
So they'll kind of pitch it as, I gave them a script that I kind of want, and this is just my own kind of overbearing and just doing too much kind of thing. Just want to oversee everything. I gave them a script I kind of want them to follow, not verbatim. I don't want to read a just word for word read script, but this is the kind of things I want you to primarily hyper focus on and target. So it's kind of motivation, timeline, pain, distress, just all those kind of things I need to know. So until I go into the call. So they'll introduce themselves, start out, we're interested in selling this property, 123 Main Street kind of thing. They'll get all the information they can, timeline, motivation, pain points, and then they'll say, okay, somebody from my team will reach out, my manager or somebody from my team will reach out at a later date. What date is good for you to follow back on? So that's kind of how they'll pose it. And then I don't pose it as really my assistant. I pose it as, "Hey, you spoke with somebody on my team. Dane is his name." And then, "Oh yeah, I remember talking to him," and then we'll go from there. But I also don't want to say, because I mean, some investors will say, "You spoke with my assistant, you spoke whatever," but I like to pose it as we're small, kind of mom and pops, where we're just trying to start up, because a lot of these investors were there at one point, right? So they own 5, 10, 15, 20 properties now, but they were all small starting out, however they got their story. So I found that building that connection of, "Hey, I'm just a family guy. I just trying to feed my kids too," kind of thing. And I love to learn how you got your start, how you got to 20 properties, how you got your 15. Let them talk. Let them go. Let them just tell their story, especially people in the South. Oh, they love to talk about their story. Right? So let them go. And then that's where, like, okay, now I come in and I'm the same way. I'd love to get to where you're at. You got 15. That's my goal or whatever, 20, 25. That's where I'd love to get to. So I kind of pose this kind of a smaller operation, family guy kind of thing. It's just knowing who you're talking to and where you're at, But I recommend Jennifer for anybody looking to go off market or find these off market direct seller leads. I recommend Jennifer. It's a good practice because the leads are necessarily already inbound per se, right? So it's an outbound outreach, but at least there's some there's some interest in selling, whether it be 6 months, whether it be tomorrow. There's some interest. It'll help you practice with your seller negotiating. It'll help you practice building rapport, and it's kind of an inexpensive way to get those, start those leads in that process.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, what CRM do you use?
I use RE Simply. RE Simply for my CRM for that, which he's actually very familiar with, so he handles it well, and they're by far the best from what I've seen. That's
one that Jason Pritchard used, right?
Yes, yeah. JC, a lot of people use it. They're actually, I think they're Colorado or California based, one of the C's, I don't remember, but they've been nothing but great. You can get a weekly onboarding call because the program is so massive. Like it just does. I think I'm on 10 leads and I'm only using like 40% of the website. Like it just does so much. So it's like you can't learn it, in one time.
And that records the calls too, does it? That CRM?
That's paid, I believe. Let me see.
Okay.
If I, don't quote me on that because I'm sorry, I'm only using 25% of the website. Call stats. I don't know on that. I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Okay.
How's
Yeah,
everything going, Ryan?
Yeah, everything's going good. Thanks. Yeah. Just kind of getting started on the rehab on the second property there. So yeah. How about you?
I'm doing fine, thanks.
Good.
Lindsay, I wanted to see if you want to share a couple minutes, Robbie as well, and Jim. Like before Jim, you have to hop off. Like kind of the things you guys, what kind of impacted you, or some things you learned or saw at Deal Champs last weekend.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that too.
Yeah, I really enjoy Terry Summers. He's investing in Ohio and he has like hundreds of properties, and his approach to real estate is more like sewers, like one rental at a time. Just concentrate, like he house hack many houses, like his wife got tired so much of house hacking. But that was the initial way that he built his little empire, and then he concentrated making relationships with like small community banks, and that was what his presentation was about, like what questions do you use like for those small community banks. He made us like learn a concept of like, if you said what's the commercial bank, small community bank, what's their appetite, like that would let you know that that commercial bank it's investing in real estate or other ventures like businesses. So he gave us 10 interview questions. Is anybody that has I took a picture, so anybody that has that want to know about what he's asked to ask the banks a commercial, because most of the things when you call a bank that is small and credit union, you think like you're asking them for a favor, but in reality you're asking them to partner up with you on an investment. So he said, basically, get yourself out of the mindset of like you're asking for money. No, you're asking them to make money on their money. So it's going to be beneficial for them. So that was like one of the biggest one that had, great impact with me, because it's more like the one I relate to. Then there was Pace Morby, which he's a great storyteller, who just connected to everybody there. He started walking around. That was pretty powerful. Joseph Deroux, that was there too. Commercial lending, commercial investing. So that was pretty amazing.
Robbie said he's busy, but and then did Jim hop off? Jim may hop off.
No, I'm still here.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You want to just share a little bit before you have to go?
Yeah, I like the variety. There's a lot of different people, especially being new. There's a lot of different people. You can take parts and pieces from everybody's story and everybody's journey. I like that a lot. And like ORAT was more of a community base, but there just once again, diversity of speakers there. You take the information you need for your journey, what you're doing. I really like that part of it. Even the after party, the Saturday night, got a lot of contacts from that. That was huge. Yeah, these events you got to go to these events. If you're not going to them, you need to figure out a way to do it. I think that's probably one of the most important things. You can only do so much on screen type stuff. You got to do some in person.
Yeah. One of the things, so I went last year and it was the same thing, pretty much same attendance, big event. Last year was really life-changing for me, just being there, just because it was all about mindset. And Jason's huge on mindset. He wanted to get a good amount of speakers that just preached about mindset and talk about it in your environments, go to these meetups, do things like that, but change your mind as to who you want to become. So that was last year, and I spent 2024 really practicing and doing that. This year, for me, the impact was more of building a better business, right? So you can grow and scale and have all these tools and all this knowledge, but until your business is in line, you're not going to grow, you're not going to elevate, you're not going to scale. So it's the ugly stuff, I always call it. So it's the bookkeeping, it's the taxes, it's the CRMs, it's just the ugly side of the business that nobody's seeing. That's what you have to perfect and scale in order, or perfect and get a good foundation before you actually scale, right? So that was my really big impact, was just building a better business at home, you know, for my business. And yeah, I call it the ugly side. It's just not the fun part of real estate, but it's got to be done in order to grow. But yeah, the private money thing and the building relationship with the banks is something Jason's always kind of taught me of. You're giving somebody else, whether it's private money or whatever, you're giving somebody else an opportunity to make money. So don't think of it as you're borrowing or asking for money. Think of it as you're giving somebody else a vehicle to make 10, 12, 14, 15% on top of their money by doing absolutely nothing except wiring some money over. Essentially, you know, there's more to it, but essentially they're making a good return off just wiring some money over. So it's that mindset shift of not asking for money, not borrowing money, but giving somebody else an opportunity to make some money with you, you know?
That's one of the reasons why there hasn't been such a crazy public understanding of what's happening with commercial real estate, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff resetting in the background, but the banks treat you like a partner because they're in it with you, as opposed to just foreclosing on, you know, your aunt on her single family residence, 3-bed, 2-bath. And so it looks completely different. That's one of the reasons why most people, it's not in the zeitgeist right now, right? They don't have a clue because it's treated differently. The bank is actively working to make sure at minimum their butt is clear. And so you're exactly right. That is something that but then again, you also have to make sure that you're at the level where they see you as an asset, right? Because if you walk in and you don't have anything, you're at zero, basically, they're going to be like, great, no, you're just the regular retail, you know, consumer at this point. So you do have to make sure that you're coming, say, hey, I've got ABC here. Here's my track record, or I don't have a track record, but here's exactly what I've been doing. This is why this is going to work. When this one's done and set in 6 months or a year, I'm coming back for a second one from you. And you're going to be so happy that I've been performing that you're going to be, you know, you're going to end up getting a raise because of me, you know, some you know, little Donald Trump action, if you will.
Yeah. No, that's so
But no,
true.
yeah, that's the biggest issue. That's one of the that I've constantly tried to preach to small investors. It's like, I'm not telling you to be rude, but you're not begging for the loan. You are there presenting something that is viable for them, because that's why they're there. They're going to make money lending money, and you're going to make money borrowing their money. So everybody wins. Oh, by the way, Z is my buddy Zaylee. She is brand new to the investment world, and she really wants to learn about out-of-state investing. So even though she's not talking, I want you guys to know that she's there. And so if anybody wants to throw her a question, I'm sure she'd be happy to answer it. Or maybe you guys can give her a tip.
Oh, hi.
Hi there.
Thank you for joining the call.
Thank you. I don't know if I have my camera on. Hopefully, yes. I'm very brand new, and JJ was like, "Oh, you just have to ask a question," but I'm like, I need to understand the answers first to ask questions. But I'm excited to be here, and I really want to learn. And I think one of the things that I'm trying to understand first is what JJ was saying about value. I have property right now, and I still don't know what my value is. Would like to go into buying a second one, but I'm trying to understand before I go and try to get any loans or any of that. Trying to understand besides having liquid cash, what else would give me value? Just having a property right now, even though it's not paid off, obviously, is that valuable? Things like that. So I'm listening to all of you. Don't mind me, but that's sort of my first step right here, like to see what I can say.
Yeah, awesome. Well, welcome to have you, or thankful to have you. Welcome to the call. We just kind of treat these as more accountability. So any wins, losses from the week, anything we learned, anything we've gone through or going through, and just kind of share, mainly focus on the out-of-state investing side of, because we're all, I think majority of us are in kind of bigger markets. I'm in Northern California. So I invest heavily here in Northern California. I do a lot of flips here, but I also invest heavily out of state too. So
yeah, you have a few different markets here. Vincent, Alabama. I'm in Indiana. I think Renee just started in Arizona, Ryan's in Detroit, and Texas as well. I'm not missing anybody.
I got a question for you guys. How did you pick the first one, and did you physically go to see the area before you jumped on it?
Lindsay, you go.
Oh, who was that? I did not go into the area before I went in, but I picked the first one initially because I was taking a contract in Illinois. I was a traveling nurse at the time, and I was looking. I started during the pandemic 2022, and a moratorium was ongoing in Illinois. So I knew like right away that it wasn't going to be a state that I wanted to start on. I wanted somebody that's going to be landlord friendly. So I started looking at Michigan, Wisconsin, Indiana, and like Ohio. And on YouTube, I reach out on social media without knowing that networking is a thing. I like started looking up just who's investing in Indiana, who's investing in Ohio, and then I started looking up different small creators. And there was two creators that were like super transparent with their numbers, including their contracts, closing costs, return on yield, basically every single step of the process of getting a rental. And so I started reaching out to them and they gave me their time for free. They like we established a relationship. We went on emails, we started calling them on the phone regularly, and they basically gave me the Rolodex of Indiana and how who the realtor is, who the property manager is, who the contractor is, and they were doing already successfully deals like 20 plus. So that's how it ended up in that market.
I would like to talk. Lindsay, I would like to talk to you sometime about Illinois because I have a friend that's just moving there and they are looking to invest in that area. So we should chat sometime. I'm new to investing and my first property was out of state just this last month. And I will say I had several hiccups. And one last one before we actually got the property handed over to us was that we allowed the tenant to stay for 4 extra days past closing. And it was included in our escrow and they left a deposit, but then they broke the garage door and they did not want to pay for it. And so we were literally, because I had a garage door guy come out to say, it's broken. It won't go up and down. You're forcibly having to shut it. And this guy had been shady towards the end of our escrow closing. And so he, with my agent's help, negotiated with a garage door guy to put a new garage door in, a brand new one. And then come to find out it was a refurbished, not new. And it's as loud as can be. And so I would say to anybody ever purchasing without a lease agreement with the previous owner, do not let them stay longer than the close of business day from closing, unless that you do have that lease agreement, because we did have a couple issues that could have turned into big legal issues and court issues. So I did not know that. So I was so new to all of that. And I was luckily in Arizona to handle some of it, but I don't know if I would invest out of state as my first one if I was new, but just me, because there had been a lot with this one that just to get us to close.
Yeah.
But I gotta tell you, those issues are gonna come up anywhere. So don't worry about that part. I wouldn't be afraid of investing again.
You're there. I'm not there. And so everything's by phone, or you've got to have good people on the, feet on the ground, boots on the ground to basically handle some of those. My real estate agent is good, but I feel that real estate, and I know you're a real estate agent, Jorge, but the one thing I would tell you about real estate agents with what I've experienced is they try to work both sides. And sometimes I feel like they're not catering to me as the client and they're catering to both. And so
not only that, but you have to make sure that whoever you use knows what you're doing. The problem with realtors is they have a license to sell property. That doesn't mean they know what the hell they're doing with every type of property. And I say this all the time. Z probably gets tired of hearing me, but don't call me if you want an $8 million mansion. I have no idea what to look for. I have zero interest in an $8 million mansion. If you want an $8 million building, I'm your man. But because we're realtors, they all can sell or lease anything. And what ends up happening is you think you have somebody who knows what they're doing. And in our business, I would say 95% of realtors haven't a freaking clue as to how and what to look for. So you are 1000% correct. I'm with you.
Yeah.
And I am disrespecting realtors because I am one.
And the real estate agent I was dealing with, he invests himself. And like I said, he was transparent, things like that. It was just a couple of things because the other agent was really like aggressive. She was calling my lender. She was calling my real estate agent every single day. And then she kind of had a mental breakdown at the end. I don't understand why you're getting, and those two realtors kind of went at it. And I'm like, okay, I've bought and sold my own primary houses, never an investment one. And I said, I've never had an issue like this. And it felt like it was just unprofessional towards one over the other. And I just kind of said to both of them, I says, we just need to get the deal done and move on. Let's get the deal done. And that's kind of what I was, is I'm just very precise. I just want the deal done. I don't want all the personal. I don't need to know everything. And that's why I told my agent, I says, quit telling me what's going on, solve it. That's your job, is to solve that and tell me that you got it solved and what I need to do. That's all I want.
Yeah, that's so true.
Love that attitude. That is fantastic.
Well, the question was, how do we get our first out of state, right, or why? Is that what you said? So I selected Montgomery, Alabama, because 5 years ago I thought California was too expensive. I would never be able to buy besides my primary. And how could I invest out here just with that simple, small mindset, right? And we've narrowed it down to about 2 or 3 different markets. I have a cousin who's a realtor in Montgomery, Alabama. Saw the housing prices, saw the rental income, and just thought we should dive in. So I bought 2, did a burr before I even knew what burring was, bought 3 or 4 more after that, and then started really diving in like, oh, this actually could work. This is not that bad. And, minus all the bad stuff that happened, right? But learned other ways to market, learned other ways to purchase, whether it's creative, all these different things, and then just kind of snowballed and grew into a portfolio now. So I love out of state. I tell everybody it's definitely hard. It has poses its own risks and bad things, but you're only as good as your team out there. You're only as good as the boots on your ground. So build a good team, but just dive in. You got to do it. The best way to learn is by doing it. And I've learned so much while owning properties rather than just sitting, analyzing, thinking about it, building a team, researching properties, analysis paralysis. I've just learned it by just doing it. And it's going to grow. You're going to figure it out. It's your property. You got to figure it out. So just figure it out,
How many properties do you have now, Vincent?
In Montgomery, I have 12.
Nice.
Hopefully 14 on Monday. We'll see.
Good job.
Thank you.
Do you have a mix of like Section 8, or are they all just regular?
Yeah, I have about, I think 4 or 5 are Section 8. I think it's 4. The rest are all regular tenants. Yeah, I'm a Peoria.
Sally, are you looking for any markets in particular? Have you narrowed that down?
Well, I live in Northern California. I live in the Bay Area, so I ideally would like to start here, but realistically, I don't think I have the cash to do that right now. So I was thinking of South Florida because I have family members in South Florida that could help me initially to to maintain the property until I get to the point where I could get a property manager. So I was thinking South Florida, but South Florida is almost as expensive as the Bay Area these days. Especially if the southern you go, Miami is super expensive. So I'm sort of like debating, but right now looking in the outskirts of Bay Area and southern South Florida, just in general.
I had that same mindset. Like as far like I said, in 2020, I thought I could never do it, and then here we are with, you know, going through having all these experiences and going through different properties and things like that. We are doing now 4 in Northern California, 4 flips, right? So you find the deal, the money will come. I always tell everybody the hardest thing to do is find a deal.
Okay.
Find that deal, the money will follow. It'll come. I raised more money yesterday while my son's getting a haircut. Didn't even know. I actually got the call. Somebody else wanted to invest on another flip I'm doing. So it's like you find the deal, good deal, the money will follow. So
Yeah, you'd
don't
be
scared to
surprised
go to
how many
California.
people. Yeah, but especially in this area, you'd be surprised how many people have money sitting on the side that will be more than happy to invest if you show proof of concept. You know what I mean? That a lot of people will take, I don't know what your terms are, Vincent, but whatever they are, as long as they're better than what they're getting on a CD, most people will be happy to invest with you.
Yeah, and Zeller, I'm in Fairfield, so I'm kind of close to you. We're about an hour from you guys.
Yeah. Thank you. That's helpful, inspirational.
Good.
Another thing to consider too is there are a lot of people that have a lot of equity in their houses right now. You know, and a lot of them are seeing where real estate's a huge opportunity for them to maximize on that equity. They may not be comfortable with doing it themselves, but if they know you well enough and they see that you've been successful enough in maximizing the capital that you put into a flip, a lot of people probably would be more than willing to either do a HELOC or do a cash out refi on their property to, you know, double what they pull out of it.
Hey Troy, are you pretty much an extrovert or introvert? Do you just go around yapping all the time, or are you kind of a quiet guy?
I'm an introvert.
Interesting. See, so there you go. Z.
Oh no, I mean extrovert. My
You're an
dyslexia
extrovert.
kicked in. I'm an extrovert.
Okay. Yeah. But the reason why I brought that up is if you're constantly talking about it, you know what I mean? You have no idea who's hearing it. And again, it might not be a direct person from you, but somebody who's with somebody might have a couple $100,000 just sitting around. And someone might bring up a conversation that you had with them, and they'll be like, well, that sounds interesting. And all of a sudden you might get an inbound call. Now, obviously, the more you are trying to make connections, the faster that gap is going to be. But if you're in that mindset of just giving people information, and again, having a proof of concept, like Vincent, you know, if Vincent were to call a random investor and say, look, this is what I've done, everything's performing, here's my mistakes, you know, what are you getting right now for your $200,000? And they say, well, I've got it in a CD. Be like, okay, well, look, here's a project, and then he can structure it any way he wants, whether he just wants the money and pay him an interest rate, or he wants to make it doesn't matter. The point is, if you're starting to move in those spaces and talking, you don't have to go talk to banks necessarily. You don't have to talk to anybody. You just have to expand what's available to you. You know what I mean? Right now, especially with the internet. I mean, when I first started, we started off with floppy disks. That's where all the properties were. They were on floppy disks. And right now, look, everybody's all over the country and we're talking about this stuff. So there's a limited amount of possibilities for you, you know.
Yeah.
And as long as you're ethical and you're doing everything you possibly can to do things right, stuff falls in. I mean, look, just these are a bunch of random people that are connecting in an hour. You know what I mean? It's just amazing. So I think one of the biggest things is our own self limits when it comes to those kind of things.
For sure.
But learn your stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I drive truck, which you guys can see that's what I'm doing, but I deliver to a lot of clients every day, and I talk to them openly about my real estate investing and stuff like that. And so through that conversation of having conversations with people that I come into contact with, like I have a capital partner that's investing $60,000 in a commercial project that we got seller financed. So, you know, they're just like, oh, hey, you know, I just inherited some money. You know, I'm seeing what you're doing. I'd love to come in on a project of what you got going and let me know if you have something that comes up.
Yep. Yeah, you'd be surprised. Like, it's not easy, right? Like, it's not gonna be easy. It's like JJ said, it's like the personal mindset shift. Right? You gotta, you're giving them an opportunity. You're giving them the vehicle to make money. Oh, go. Good morning, go.
And
That usually, if the deal's good enough, there's people out there. You have such a vast network of communities that you can tap into, that people are more than willing to invest into something that's a really good opportunity.
yeah, same, Sally. If you have any questions about any markets that you're looking at, just reach out to anybody in school. And then I think most of us are just willing to talk to anybody that, just wants to learn.
Awesome. Thank you. No, I'm going to come back next week too. Yes.
We're here every Friday. Sorry about that. My kids are on spring break. My daughter just walked in. Sorry.
Charles, you shared a deal. Is that a property you're looking at?
Yeah, today at 4.
Oh, awesome. It's
So,
listed for 35,000.
yeah, everything else seems to be like double that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, on market?
Oh yeah, Zillow.
Okay.
Look it up. It's I don't know. We'll see.
Nice. That's exciting.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
It's more of why.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, why?
So
how long has it been on market?
I seen it yesterday.
Okay.
So I think it's, I don't know, we haven't hit 48 hours yet from what I've found, but I didn't get anything for days on market from the realtor yet.
Good.
So the question is when you guys are looking for something out of state, what hits your boxes? I mean,
what do you mean?
well, you start looking for an area, and obviously it's someplace you've been or someplace somebody, but what else?
So you're talking about like when you're starting out in a new market out of state or somewhere else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or when I'm trying to provide something to somebody out of state.
Yeah. So the way I hope this answers it. The way I look at it is I'm only in one market out of state, right? But I know that market very well. I didn't spend a lot of time analyzing that market. I spent a lot of time building my team. So I had a whole contact list of contractors, HVAC plumbers, and all that before I even dove into my first one. Whether that was right or wrong, I don't know. That was just my analysis paralysis back then. I didn't learn the areas in the community until I already had 2 in there, right? So whether that's the best way to go about it, it worked for me. But what hits my box really on that is you can spend hours, days on analyzing the market, from the crime to the schools to the housing prices to the population growth to the decline, like all this stuff you can do. Nothing's going to be perfect, right? You're going to have some bad stuff or some good stuff. Nothing's going to be 100% perfect. And that's where you kind of just got to go. Like, what I think it's more of like, what do you want out of this? So do you want $500 cash for the door? Do you want to gain equity in a couple of years? Like, it's just like, what do you want from this investing journey, right? I think that better answer, and I hope that helps. But I don't know what you're really looking for. Like, my thing was cash flow. I know my properties have probably stayed the same price in 5 years, or maybe gained a little bit of equity, or a little bit of equity just from what I've done to them, but nothing crazy where I can get a HELOC on it and buy another one, nothing like that. But I get steady $500 a door, and I will for the rest of my life, or if not more as rents go up and debt goes down. But I think it depends on like, what are you looking for? And I hope that helps.
I think
sure. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, everybody says diversify your investments, and they're talking about different, 401ks and direct stock and all that stuff. To me, if you understand real estate, you can diversify your investment types like Vincent's doing. I think he does flips in California, and then he buys cash flow, low equity in Alabama. So that's diversifying his investments. I mean, yes, they're all real estate, and yes, if there's a bomb or whatever,
Yeah.
everything goes down. But everything goes down everywhere. But to me, that's a really good way to do it, because you're not relying on one, you know what I mean, one source of style of income. So that's actually, man, that's exactly, you put it together really, really well. You know, between your flips and your long terms, and you work accordingly. You know what I mean? Your flips, you're looking obviously at the bottom nut line, and your income over there, you want to make sure that it's consistently producing whatever that number is that you want out of every door, irrelevant of what cash on cash is and all that other stuff. You know, because I think too many people become spreadsheet warriors, and they worry about what the spreadsheet looks like. And it's like, this is such a long-term thing that it kind of becomes irrelevant if your game plan was solid from the beginning.
Exactly. 100%. So Charles, can I ask you, what are you kind of looking for? What is your goal with this property you're walking down? Would it be for cash flow?
Warren Buffett's #1 rule: don't lose money.
Well,
So,
I think
yeah, sure. All this is cash flow to begin with, but there's definitely some equity plays in here. Being this is not out of state for me, this is my backyard.
okay.
So everything I'm looking at is not a combat zone. The biggest things we've got to deal with in Illinois is taxes and the government changing rules. So some of these counties do not allow or don't have Section 8. Some of them do. There's other programs that are available to shore up some positions. Everything that I look at will cash flow on the open market. So everything that I'm presenting. The question to you is how do your flips vary from your buy and holds? What's different about those?
Very different. I'm from price, from quality of work, from scope of work, from going on market, like everything it's a whole different ballgame. So I burr out of state. So I buy a property for $40,000. This is an example, right? I buy a property for $40,000. I put 25, 30 into it, and then I cash out refi 70 to 75%, right? Put all my money back in to my investors' pockets, put all my money back in my pocket for the rehab, move on to the next project. Rental income, $400 to $500 a month, right? Here, I'm buying distressed properties. We're at home buying distressed properties, putting $30,000 to $90,000 in these properties, and then listing them back on the open market. So, completely different. I mean, yes, I'm rehabbing a property essentially, but now I have to factor in holding costs. I have to factor in going on a market, negotiating with buyers, realtors, all this kind of stuff. When I do everything direct to seller out of state, so I deal with no realtors. I deal with no on market listings. I deal with no no commission. Sorry, I'm going straight to the seller, giving him a purchase agreement. We're buying it from right there. I'm closing in 2 weeks. We fix it up with my contractors, and then I go to a lender and get 75% back out of that on the value, that ARV, right? So. 100% is different. So that's what I was kind of asking. If you want to go for cash, if you're going to keep this property on Oakwood forever, you're going to lose money on that property, like forever. But like JJ said, it's a long-term play, right? Like you're going to get this cash flow over time, but you're going to lose money on it. Water heater is going to go, AC is going to go, roof's going to go, all that kind of stuff. But it's just a long-term play. My buy and holds, I don't touch any of that money. It goes right back into the buy and hold business. When I need it, I can, but I don't. I keep it just rolling right back into that. My flips is my active income. That's my go on vacation, feed my kids, kind of income thing. Does that answer your question, Charles?
So you believe that the maintenance on this property is going to be more than it flows, cash flows?
On your Oakwood property?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't even looked at it. I was just
okay.
But yes,
I think he was just saying it as an example, right, Vincent?
As a buy and hold investor, yes, you're going to have stuff come up, right? I'm not saying it's going to you could be lucky. I don't know, 20 years, you could go be lucky. I can't speak on that. I have no idea. You could have 110 in there for 20 years, no roof issues, no leaks. I don't know. It could be the perfect property in the world. I'm not sure, but I'm just saying as a buy home investor, every single one of my properties I've had to spend money on, right? So things are going to come up. People are going to flush tampons down the toilet. Like it's just going to happen. It's just kind of part of the game. If it wasn't risky, then it wouldn't be worth, it's going to be, that's part of it. So but I don't know about that exact property. And what did you say, JJ? Sorry.
I was just going to ask Vincent, one of my biggest things is older, and this is the previous generation. I think I'm in between the two. I grew up before most investors were mom and pop, and they just bought 1 or 2 buildings and didn't think about it. And they had, people they knew rent them and so on and so forth. And then obviously now with all the new technology, you guys are super efficient, can really make things work. And I kind of grew up in between because I'm 50. And so my thing is, now I lost the train of thought, but I was going to ask you, what are you looking at as far as like, do you have like a 5 or 10-year plan? And the reason why I said is, again, most of the people that I dealt with, it was accidental. They just bought it and didn't think about it, paid the mortgage, fixed the roof when it needed to be. But again, those things were so cheap back then. Anywhere, I didn't care where you were. 30 years ago, when the stuff was not that expensive, so it wasn't the end of the world for a guy who was making a little extra money to be able to maintain a property decently. So my question is, do you have like a 5, 10, 15-year plan, or are you just still grinding and trying to build at this point without even taking that into consideration?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think with my really big mindset shift last year, every big we've set a lot of, my wife and I have set a lot of goals for us. So in 5, 10 years, I don't see myself flipping. Flipping's a grind. It's not easy, but it could be lucrative, right? Depending on the deal, but it's risky. A lot that goes into it. And Lindsay and I have talked about this before too on our podcast, but like my goal, I don't want to flip forever, but my wife and I, we do own another business, in the home care side. So like we're building and growing that. My portfolio is where I really want to grind and grow. So my out-of-state thing, whether it's in-state, out-of-state, my rental portfolio is really what I want to grow. That's the generational wealth. That's what I want to show my kids, pass down to my kids, that kind of thing. And my kids are with me at every property. They see it. They're stepping over dirty hoarder stuff just like I am, and then they're seeing it nice and beautiful just like I am. So they've seen both sides. They haven't seen my out-of-state, but they've seen what I do. So my goal is to build the portfolio, as well as our other business. But that's what I really see, and then be able to help educate and be a private lender. I want to be a private lender. Like I want to be the person to go, hey Lindsay, you're doing a flip. Here's $500,000.
Oh.
That's the end goal too. I want to sit on the couch and make $50,000 on top of my money I'm lending out, right? So I would say that's my ultimate goal. I want to be in the position of being able to help people too, to show that it's possible. And that's kind of the reason for this call, like to show that a little kid from Fairfield can make it work and figure it out. And but no means that I figured it out, but like you can make it happen, and have that life you want, or have that freedom you want to do what you want and spend with your kids, or go on trips, vacations, whatever. We're in the works of. I was just in LA this last couple days, and Lindsay, I'm moving. I'm going down to LA. I love it down there. But we're in the works of building a team. It's very, very early on. This is the first time you honestly talked about it, but we're in the works of building a large team with a call center and dispo team, just everything real estate related kind of thing. So that's kind of a very, very surface level introduction into that. But there's a lot into play. But 5, 10 years, I see myself just coaching my kids still, taking them to school every day, just like I do, and just still, doing my thing, but just not flipping. Flipping's, it's fun. Like I just had one go on market last night. It's fun, but it's a grind. If that answers your question. Sorry, that was a lot.
Not really. No. It's the mindset, trying to figure out where people at, what they're doing, what they're tired of, what they'll do more of. Go ahead.
No, it's just because Vincent, it's funny that you say that, because I grew up a little bit older, so I didn't have these ideas of creating projection. I just knew that this was a decent way to be able to build wealth. And I don't lend money directly, But because I obviously talk a lot, and a lot of people hear what I'm talking about, I've gotten into 7 deals where I didn't have to put up any of my money because the people understood that I brought way more value to them. And if they kept everything, I had a guy who blew two flips, cost himself money, and then he came to me. He goes, if you manage it, I'll give you 10%, and plus your management fees. And I was like, I don't know what to charge you because I've only done stuff for myself, so I don't really know how to charge on this. I said, but we'll figure it out. And I didn't want to add any extra, overhead monthly or whatever to the bill. I said, let's just figure it out and see how it works. Well, I just told myself, like, at the end of the day, I'm good. He gave me 10% equity on that place.
Wow.
Just because I helped him. I mean, he was stressed out from the other 2. He had already lost some serious money on those 2. So we were successful on the 3rd one. I ended up having to just change his ideas about certain things, right? A lot of the stuff he was doing was very basic. Like, he was allowing his wife to be the person who made the decisions. And I'm like, you can't pick bright yellow sunflower cabinets. I know they look good, but not everybody wants those.
Exactly.
Those kind of things, right? And so anyway, and so from him, another guy called me and said, I have a lot. I have the plans. I keep running into problems with the cities. I'll give you 20% if you manage it and rent it out. And now I own 20% of a fourplex.
Nice.
And it cost me $0. Now, again, I'm not actively looking for any of the kind of those things, but as you start growing, those kind of things will start coming your way, especially the way you're moving, man. I think you're going to have all kinds of, and so again,
it's like, how can you bring value to others is where you really grow.
Right. And a lot of the times you don't even have to go give a presentation. They'll see it from your conversations and things you're exposing them to. So they're, you know what I'm saying? Anyway, I was just thinking that I love the way you're trying to evolve the ideas.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And that comes from talking about it. Like, just talk about it. Everywhere, everything, every place, whatever. I'm not saying like when you check out at Target, talk to the cashier, but like, in these environments and in these scenarios, friends, family, just talk about what you're doing. Somebody knows somebody that is doing something, right? So, and I've always talked to you guys about the private money pitch I do is like, is anybody in your network interested in lending money on a real estate deal? Because you're not directly asking that person, but it gets them thinking, right? So like, well, tell me what you have going on. So now you can educate on them. It kind of breaks that nervous barrier of asking for $400,000, right? So you're just going, hey, I need 400. This is what we're doing, kind of thing. Do you have anybody in your network or your community that's interested in that in lending on this deal? This is what the returns look like. Oh, this person, because usually you send it to people that have a couple dollars, right? So it bridges that gap and builds that connection, I think.
And please, if I'm hogging too much, just tell me to shut up. I'm perfectly fine.
Any value is good value.
Are you still looking for deals in your area, or are you looking also for out of state now?
Me?
Yeah.
Mostly for myself, only like home runs in my area, right? Stuff that are super basic, stuff that you good luck. It's like 1 in a million type things. Because I've got a decent portfolio right now, and everything that I have is performing pretty well. So I've got the cash flow that I'm looking at. I don't necessarily want to start looking for myself out of state, but my biggest thing right now, maybe it sounds stupid, but I think there's a lot of young people who are screwed. When I was coming up, again, I'm 52. When I was coming up, if you just worked at UPS and you buckle down, fix your credit, and save money for 6 months, you could buy a house. May not be your dream house, but you could buy a house. Right now, I don't know about the rest of the country, but in the Bay Area, you can make $200,000 and not be able to buy a house. And so my thing is I want to be able to get younger people to start thinking about buying multifamily units with either friends or buying them and then having relatives or things like that rent out the other units for them, so they don't have to necessarily get displaced and have to drive 1.5 hours, 2 hours away from wherever they're working. It's not ideal, but I think that mindset makes a big difference. So I'm really focusing on looking at those type of things. So while I'm calling I'm still calling to get sales, if you will. I mean, I'm not really concerned about that part, but I'm trying to get a hold of sellers before they put it on the market, because a lot of older sellers, as Vincent knows, are very flexible. And what I want to do is catch those guys before they go on the market, because a realtor's like a lumberjack, right? A lumberjack never met a tree he didn't want to cut. So a realtor never met a property he doesn't want to sell fast. But I want to be able to talk to the sellers before they put it on the market, so that I can explain to them that they're not going to lose any money. But if they're a little bit more patient and creative with some of these younger people, we could help get some of these people off rent rolls and start buying and holding property, which in the long run, it helps everybody. I mean, okay, I'm lucky, right? It was luck. I built my stuff when it was cheap. It didn't take a genius, right? Now you have to be a lot more creative.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to pretend that it wasn't luck. I wasn't smart. I was just lucky. And so that opportunity's gone for a lot of people, and that's what I'm working on. I'm cold calling and talking to those kind of, and I'm not gonna lie, if a super duper super great deal comes along, I'll keep it. But if it's something that goes retail, I'd rather be able to give it and show it to someone who otherwise would be out of it. Because if you take into consideration, I've got investors who have cash, who can pay $1 million for a property, right? So if a decent property shows up, it's a triplex, it's all vacant, what it hits all the markers. The guy with the $1 million on the MLS is going to take, I mean, the seller's going to take the $1 million cash, close in 10 days, close in 5 days, right? Where if I come with 2 or 3 people and they've got to go through the regular inspection process and the whole, and there might be some hiccups and it might take 30, 45 days. Well, a regular seller will be like, no, give me the money, give me the $1 million. But what I want to do is get in front of the seller and say, hey, you don't even need the money right now. Because most of them don't, they're not hurting. Let's see if we can help these people out. You're not going to lose any money. I'm not here to, for you to give them a haircut. For you to take a haircut. I'm just here to see if you can help facilitate. And people are not everybody, of course, but if I can find 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 in a year, man, that's something.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at right now. And of course, if stuff falls into my plate, I'll take it. But I'm not actively looking like that. And that's one of the reasons why I've also am trying to get more educated on out of state, because I think people in my area with $50,000 can't do much, but if you go out of state with it, you can do something. So anyway, that's just where I'm coming from.
I love that.
So
I don't know that it takes a lot
with that 50 grand, what would you have them do?
Well, that's exactly why I'm here, right? Because you guys are buying, and I'm trying to find, I literally want to look for 2 or 3 locations where I can start making connections myself and start finding people where I can, I mean, no disrespect to any market, but $100,000 commission doesn't mean anything to me. You know what I mean? I mean, the cheapest properties in my area are $600,000. And so $100,000 transaction, I could care less about. But if I could start in talking with you guys and networking more and more in other states and start building what Vincent has, as far as being able to facilitate them buying in those areas, it's a positive, And again, I'm not going to make any money. I mean, what's a referral fee on $100,000? The transaction's $2,500, referral fee's 20. So that's what, I don't know, $400, something. I don't know, whatever it is. It's negligible for me. I'm not saying it's negligible, but I'm just saying for me, it's negligible. But what I want to do is start creating those kind of situations, and also long term. I want to buy commercial multi-unit, 20, 30, 40 unit buildings. And I don't want to do it in California for obvious reasons. And so I think once I start getting a little bit more immersed in the neighborhoods, because those are a little trickier, right? It's more babysitting. And so you really have to have a solid team to be able to manage it and deal with it for you. And so that's my long-term goal, is to pick up a couple of 20 plus buildings out of state. But again, I'm in no hurry, because I don't need to take a L for any reason in my situation.
Cool. Well, anybody have, before we get off, anybody have any wins or losses from this last week or 2 weeks? Anybody anything to share? Any new news?
2 weeks ago, I mentioned to one of my buddies that want to buy real estate rentals. One of them was like, what do you want to do that for? The other one was like, need to talk to my brother-in-law.
Mhm.
Brother-in-law had a dozen rentals, still has 8 left. Won't sell or finance, but in the last couple of weeks, we've become buddies. So the same price that I've got this thing up here for, it's going to be a little bit more, but there's another duplex in a nearby town that we're looking at. And that's not the best one of his properties. He's tired, doesn't have any systems, doesn't know what's going on. The rents on the one I showed are 100 and a quarter or so below without fixing. My solution to JJ's problem is putting my cash to work for properties that won't normally receive conventional financing, but get them in a condition that the average single homeowner can afford and fix how they want. The cost to them is going to be a higher contract, a higher terms rate on a shorter term deal, say 12 years, like 12% at 12 years. That's mine.
Mhm.
Wow, that's great.
That's really good.
So
And
what I
talking
learned
about
from,
it, you made a connection just talking about it.
yeah. So what I learned from ORAD in Vegas this year was first year in, I'm like 90 days into this. This is something that I just kind of had to deal with. The quickest way to get financing is seller financing. Quickest way to get a deal is to use what you're doing with Jen. The best money is to get as many people into that property as you can. Rent by the room, sober living, those sorts of concepts. The quicker you can put all 3 of them together, the larger your portfolio grows. And my question to you, Vincent, is you built contacts before you had work for your people. How soon did the work follow?
Oh, that's a good question. The contacts I built before starting out aren't the contacts I use today.
Yep.
So that's lots changed, lots evolved in 5 years. So I spent 2019 to 2020 and analysis process, right? Analyzing every market, talking myself out of deals because I was nervous to spend this cash and move, buy these properties. So I'd find something and I'd find a reason why I don't need to buy it, right? So that was that first year. Then I spent some time that same year building. So hey, if I buy a property, would you work on it, kind of thing? I'm not knowing who I'm just randomly calling this ABC contractor, right? And then once I bought the properties, I had to weed out the bad ones because then the work started, right? So I wasn't rehabbing; I was buying on market in 2020. I just found something on Zillow, talked to my cousin who's a realtor. She looked at it, and we went from there. So once something came up, I had to get rid of the price gougers. So people would see a 707 or California phone number, and they double charge or overcharge me because they thought I was some rich California person, right? And they even said that, oh, you're from California, we're gonna charge you more because the out of state thing or whatever. So weed out those people. So I don't know the exact time frame of when it is, but I will say like my team looks tremendously different than day one, right? It's a whole different set of people. So that depends. It sounds like this one you're investing in your backyard though, right?
Oh, these are the things I'll fix.
Yeah, there you go.
So yeah. So to give an idea, I spent 15 years building swimming pools.
Mhm.
Built over 1,000 pools. Didn't sell one maintenance contract.
Mm.
I'm that guy that wasn't thinking, just too busy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So looking back as I'm older and tireder, fatter, everything changes. So you're like, how do I do this? How do I make this success? How do I keep my margins fat enough that everybody should be able to be successful? So did I lose everybody?
No, you're still on.
Okay. Yep. So, and Lindsay, the rent moratoriums, that was my first. Now, we had rentals when I was a kid in my backyard. The same houses that we rented when my family owned them are still rentals. People have lived in them for the last 45 years. So may not be great, but they still keep cranking away. Just imagine if you were the tax man collecting taxes. It's the same thing we're doing as landlords, trying to keep people in, trying to solve the basic problems. The difference to the advantages I have, especially when I stay real close by, 50 years in an area, I know the last names. You have an idea of where they come from. The rent moratoriums, the backup is to have some sort of subsidy balancing some of that out. So that's where when I heard of this, I thought, how stupid, during whatever that went down in, was like, how in the world? That doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, oh, yes, it does. They just created an opportunity for folks to want to do this instead of making them do this. So, and to your traveling nurse thing, we're going to have the nurses that have horsey habits. You've got a property that my daughter's got the same sort of habit, going to nursing school or starting. We're going to have hookups for the folks to come in with their ponies, indoor arena, private little small acreage, 20 minutes from the hospital for a couple. So I've got a bunch of unique old small stuff that everybody wants to own, but you never think it'd work as a rental. So I'm trying to figure out how things work. So trying to solve problems is really what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, you definitely can tap into that. If your hospital does have a lot of rental, a lot of demand for traveling nurses, and then you can find out from the hospital itself. You can just talk to the nursing office and then ask them if you guys have traveler nurses, and about a year how many traveler nurses you have, and then you'll find out there's a need for that. And then midterm rental is not so far from that. So in midterm rental in my area is twice as much as long-term rental for
yes,
for traveler nurses. For sure.
I'm basically looking just to provide the facility for the horse trailers. They've got living quarters, so they've got some place to be. And I originally didn't want my daughter commingling with tenant because there's a house on this property. And then I realized that you're just going to have to. And instead of trying to find another tenant for that horse barn, put her in there and use it because she likes Mustangs, use it for her ground training facility and for her to put on clinics. Plus it gives a chance for folks to have a spot to come in and either show their ponies or attend. And I need to put most of the facilities in anyway to have a new bathroom in that barn. So it's what I'm thinking. So anyway.
You picked up 2 multifamilies in the last year, right?
Say again.
You picked up 2 properties, multifamilies, in the last year?
I picked up 1 multifamily in the last 60 days. The other one is, it's the house I'm in, but yeah, it wasn't supposed to be this way. I didn't plan for this to happen. And now all of a sudden I'm like, okay, if I'm doing this, that means I got to have tenants. So what am I most afraid of? Dealing with people. How do I get good at that? Copy that. So that's.
Hey, Lindsay, everybody, I have to hop off. I really apologize. I
No, we're good. We're way over anyway for an hour. And I took a new job, so I'm not going to be around in the middle of the day. Looks like old guy is the only one I'm going to normally be able to catch, and maybe Zuber on Sundays.
Okay, well, I appreciate you guys, everybody joining this week, and we will talk next Friday for whoever can make it.
Yeah, next Friday will be my last one for a while.
Okay, so, thank you so much for your time, Charles, and all your information.
Yep, see you guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good week.
Oop, someone's trying to